Hi, Kris Vallotton. We're in chapter 8. We're in the last chapter right now called For the Love of God. And this is probably actually my favorite chapter because it includes the story of my boyhood relationship with my grandfather. And I really believe that love is really the answer. You know, the Beatles sang All You Need Is Love, and unfortunately they never found it. But they never found true love. Or maybe they did, but definitely not in that song. But perfect love cast out fear, 1 John wrote. Perfect love casts out fear because fear involves punishment. And so we know that love is ultimately the most powerful weapon of warfare against fear and torment. And so I want to talk a little bit about the love of God. You know, love isn't just a word. It needs to be experienced. Love needs to be experienced. And so there's a lot of people who's like, I love you, but they treat you like crap. You're like, can you not love me, please? I remember doing a counseling appointment with a husband and wife, and this particular husband was brutal and abusive and even had physically abused this woman. And he leans across the couch and he goes, baby, I love you. I'm like, oh no, time out. No, time out. You do not love this woman. You do not love this woman. Your actions prove that you don't love this woman. Love is not a feeling. Love inspires good feelings most of the time, but love must be experienced. And so I want to talk a little bit about my love, the love of my grandfather's love for me. You know, there's something powerful happens when somebody believes in you before you deserve it. And I think in some ways we all deserve it in that we're all children of God. And in some ways we never deserve it in that he is so good, and comparatively speaking, you know, we don't hold a candle to his goodness, to God's goodness. But my grandfather believed in me long before I ever deserved it. And what was amazing is my grandfather didn't know the Lord till the last year of his life. And I've told you some of the stories in there where, you know, I tore the siding off my grandfather's garage to find wood to build a go-kart. My mother would come home. My mother came home and she's like, your grandfather's going to kill you. He's going to kill you. And she marched me out to my grandfather's car when my grandfather pulled up. I can still remember it. She marched me out. My mother used to grab me as a teenager. She'd grab me by the neck and give me a squeeze. And nowadays they might call that child abuse, but that was discipline in those days. My grandmother would whip me with a branch, you know. She never beat me like, I didn't look like Jesus's back or anything, but she'd get a switch and just whap it across our legs. And those are disciplined days. Those are the ways people do this discipline before Danny Silk was born, and maybe several others. But my mother marched me out to the car and she says, tell your grandfather what you did. I'm like, built a go-kart. I built a go-kart. Oh, let me look at it. And I take him over there and he looks at my go-kart and he's like, well, that's really cool. Where did you get the wood? From the garage. And of course the light shining through the side of the garage because I tore the siding off to get wood for my go-kart. And my grandfather's like, where'd you get the wheels? I'm like, from the lawnmower. I took the lawnmower wheels off and nailed them to the side. And my grandfather's like, come on, let's get you some real wheels, and took me down to the hardware store. And my mother was like, you are dead, you know. And that was my history with my grandfather. My grandfather had so much patience for me, and he was so kind to me. And I remember, I think I told the story in the book, I forget now, but yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. My grandfather throws me the keys to his flatbed truck, and all my cousins jump in the truck, and we blow through the field in this old, I don't know, it's probably 50s Dodge truck, and you know, this flatbed old farm truck, and dirt flying with my seven girl cousins being covered in dirt, city girls, and then we end up going down this gravel road, and the road was washed out at the end, and I backed up, and we were backing up, and I was like going like a, you know, I was going to say a bat out of hell, but you're not supposed to say that on videos like this, angel out of heaven. And I had my cousins had the door open so that we could make sure we don't fall off the cliff because there was a cliff on one side and a river on the other. And a tree grabbed the door and ripped it off. ripped the door off the truck. And my cousin's like, Grandpa's gonna kill you. Grandpa's gonna kill you. I'll never forget this as long as I live. You know how sometimes there are things that happen in our life that you can actually revisit them in your emotion. Like you can actually not just remember them, you can just, like all the emotion of it comes back. And my cousins were like, your grandfather's going to kill you. We're all probably teenagers, I don't know, 16, 15, 17. And we drove really slowly back up to the house where there was a big party going on. And all my grandparents and my parents and my uncles and aunts were there. And they were probably drinking too much. And I said, let's not tell anybody. And my cousin immediately jumps off the back of the truck, runs into the party. Kris wrecked the truck. Kris wrecked the truck. And of course, they're covered in dirt. And my uncle comes running out, and one of his daughters was on the truck, and he's like, what did happen? And of course, the door is hanging by half a hinge. It's bent in half, and it's, the cab is open. And he comes running up, and he's like, what did you do? You could have killed one of these girls. And he's like, you're in trouble. And my grandfather comes waddling up. My grandfather never really walked. He kind of waddled, and he comes waddling up in his coveralls, and, he doesn't have any front teeth. And he's like, and he looks at me, and my uncle's yelling at me, and I'm trying to, explain that it was an accident. And my grandfather comes over and he winks at me. He winks. And I'm like, okay, that means like, don't talk, I got this. And my grandfather comes over and he winks at me when my uncle's just yelling at me still. And he goes, what happened here? And I'm said, backed up in that tree, bent it in half. And he goes, oh yeah. I said, you know what? I've been wanting to take those doors off that truck for years. You know what? It just takes so much time to get in and out of that truck, and we don't need doors. Just go get some tools and take both doors off. And my uncle's like, you're dead. You're gonna die. And I just remember all of these incidents where just time after time, I just did craziest stuff. And my grandfather's like, you're a good man. Like, I love you. It was kind of funny. I think it was probably around 3 years ago or 4. One of my grandsons was on our tractor, and I was letting him drive a tractor, and he was pulling it out of the garage. And what he didn't understand is that he had pushed the button to close the door while he was actually simultaneously pulling the tractor out of the garage. And I see him from across the yard, and I see that the garage door is going to come down on the tractor. So I'm running across the lot, across our yard, and I'm yelling like, Micah, look out, watch out for the door. But the tractor's going, so he can't hear me. And just as I get like 15 feet from him, the door catches the tractor and rips it off the hinges. And Kathy is with her horses over on the property. And I look over and I said, Micah, what did you do? And Kathy yells, remember your grandfather. And he looks and, he starts to cry. I'm like, it's no big deal. Don't worry about that. We can fix that. And now every time one of my grandchildren do anything, Kathy will whisper behind me, like, remember your grandfather. It's just a beautiful story of how, you find somebody who loves you and it changes you. I'm 65. My grandfather's been dead for 40 years. Probably 40 years. And his love for me still impacts me every day. Every day. In fact, Grandpa, I hope you're watching this from heaven. But I want to say it to you that God loves you. And there's a lot of people that they view God like a bad father, like my stepfathers. But that's not God. My grandfather did correct me. My grandfather would call me knucklehead. He's like, hey, knucklehead, what'd you do now? Hey, knucklehead. Knucklehead meant I was in trouble. I'm in the crapper now. My grandfather did correct me. but his love for me made his correction palatable. I never once was corrected by my grandfather in a way that made me feel like I was a bad man. There's something about correcting people that helps. Let me say it this way. I was just talking to one of my sons, talking to him about their children. I said, we have to make sure that this child of ours doesn't feel like they're a bad person because they did something bad. We have to make sure that we don't correct them in a way that they feel like I'm just a bad person. And my grandfather unknowingly was a master at correcting a knucklehead without making me feel like I was a bad boy. And there's something about the love of God that brings discipline and correction, like a real father does correct us. You know, Hebrews 12 says that only bastards don't receive correction, don't receive discipline. But sons, God corrects sons, he corrects daughters. But love has a way of making it hurt so good. Love has a way of leading us out of darkness, sometimes with the discipline that we need, without destroying us. And I want to say that we have a very good father. If my grandfather knew how to love me before he found the Lord, and by the way, I led to the Lord the last year, and at some point on some blog, I got to tell that story because my grandfather ended up encountering angels for the year before he died, and they taught him the Bible. But if my grandfather, who didn't know the Lord at the time, could introduce me to the love of God before he actually knew God, then certainly each of us can experience the love of God that's beyond understanding. Like, my brain doesn't get it, but my heart knows it needs it. And I want to pray for you right now. And I just want to say, some of you are like me. You came up in really abusive homes, and maybe you didn't have a grandpa who loved you. My mother loved me too. Maybe you didn't have a mother who loved you or a grandpa who loved you. But I want to tell you, you always had a God who loved you. And he loves you right now. And if you haven't experienced the love of God, or maybe you walked away from God, maybe you're like, that's just all religion. Yeah, that's not true. And maybe a church abused you and you're like, oh, that's just those churches, all they do is take people's money. I'm sorry that was your experience. There are a lot of grandpas that probably didn't do a good job, but that doesn't mean there aren't great grandfathers. There are a lot of marriages that don't work. That doesn't mean that God didn't actually sanction marriage. There are a lot of things that fail us, but God never fails us. I want to pray for you right now. Lord, I pray that everyone that's watching us would experience the love of God that's beyond understanding, that we would go with our hearts places our heads could never go. And I pray, God, that you would call people back to their first love. Those who are watching that never knew the Lord, Father, I pray that you would show them that you're a good, good God, and you have a beautiful plan for their life. And this virus you are bigger than any virus. You're bigger than any problem they're having. And Lord, I pray for the restoration of their hearts and souls. And Lord, I pray for the person who knows you but just hasn't really walked with you. Lord, I pray that you would restore them to their relationship with you, and there just be a beautiful reconnection. That would be that first love kind of reconnection. And I just have this deep sense that the Lord's also reconnecting couples to first love. That this virus in a crazy way is good for you, in that the Lord has got you on a timeout. You're home together, and the Lord's like, I have put you on a timeout so that you will find passion again, that you'll find love again. And I pray for that reconciliation that 2 Corinthians chapter 5 talks about, that God is a reconciler of hearts, both to him and to each other. And I pray that this would be the most wonderful season of reconnecting with Jesus, or connecting with Jesus for the first time and finding yourself to be born again, or you're just reconnecting with the people around you that maybe you've taken advantage of and not thought of, and suddenly you're on a timeout and you're like, wow, my wife's amazing. I don't know if I've told her that enough. My husband, I just so appreciate him. My kids. And I just pray for that reconciliation in your life, that this would be, that the ultimate battle is won when we find love again. And I bless that in you. I want to ask you to do something. We would love for you to share your testimonies that you've had through this time, especially if they're related to the study we're doing in the book. Because what we want to do is with your permission, we'd like to post some of your testimonies over the next couple months, or maybe a month or 60 days. Because one of the words for testimony, God required the people in the Old Testament to keep his commandments and his testimonies. One of the Hebrew words for testimony is do it again. And we believe that whatever God did for you, the testimony of Jesus, what Jesus did for you, is a spirit of prophecy he'll do for someone else. And we would love to post some of your testimonies on our social pages, but we'll need your permission to do that. So if you would look at the email address below and send us your testimony. Probably it needs to be an abbreviated version, because if you write 5 pages, obviously we can't post that. But maybe something, 150 words or less that just gives bullet points of your life. That would be beautiful. And if you could just write a little, I give you permission to use this, that would be great. Because testimonies with a first name, at least a first name, is so much more powerful than just an ambiguous words on the screen. So we love you and we bless you and we thank you for listening. And we really hope that this Spirit Wars study really helped you to find freedom, love, and peace for you and yours. God bless.